Royal Caribbean just spent over $100 million upgrading Allure of the Seas, and I gotta say, it looks really great, except there were some things I was really surprised they did and didn't do on board the ship. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Like any good YouTuber out there, I'm here to Monday morning quarterback the changes that Royal Caribbean has made to Allure of the Seas. Now, as part of a royal amplification, I'm always in favor of these because they really do add a lot of value and amenities on board the ship that I think really breathes new life into it. Up until this point, Allure of the Seas had been considered by many as quote-unquote the worst of the Oasis class because it lacks certain features on board that we've come to enjoy on other Oasis class ships. And really this became more notable when Oasis of the Seas got her amplification in 2019. However, Allure got hers now, and if you want to check it out, we have a video right here to check out of the full ship tour. You can see everything that Royal Caribbean has changed on board. That being said, I came up with about a half a dozen things that I kind of was like scratching my head about as to why Royal Caribbean did or didn't make the change. Number one was they kept Samba Grill on board. This is truly bizarre for a couple of reasons. Number one, there are only two Royal Caribbean cruise ships with the Samba Grill specialty restaurant, Allure of the Seas and Radiance of the Seas. And I'm pretty sure Allure got hers something like, 10 or 15 years ago. So this is not a new concept that's been like rolled out. With Royal Caribbean, when they have restaurant ideas, they tend to either get rolled out a lot like Izumi or Chops Grill, or they die on the vine and wither and just go away. Samba Grill definitely falls into that second category. So we thought for sure they were going to get rid of it, but they didn't. And I'm not sure why. I've tried Samba Grill on Allure of the Seas, and I really was disappointed in it because it really lacked the spontaneity, I think, of a traditional Brazilian steakhouse in which they bring you constantly all sorts of meats. The problem I had with Samba Grill was they asked you how you wanted your meat cooked, which is great because you want to customize. The problem is there was a lot of downtime in between meat servings because they were cooking it in the back. And so by the time they brought it back out again, I was like, I'm not hungry anymore. Like, it kind of took away the whole aspect of a Brazilian steakhouse, if you ask me. Nonetheless, forgetting my personal opinion, again, Royal Caribbean has a cadence of, if a restaurant concept is popular, they'll expand it. But since they haven't added Samba Grill in over a decade to any ships, it seemed like this was definitely going to be a, we're going to get rid of it situation, but they didn't. In fact, you might say, well, Matt, that would have cost them money. Well, they could have just made the Solarium Bistro, which is where Samba Grill exists, just serve dinner like they do on other ships. And that would have actually been like a net positive in that situation. I don't understand it, but Samba Grill is still there. Something else I didn't understand why they didn't do it was they did not add destination elevators to Allure of the Seas. Now, this is interesting for 2 points. One is that destination elevators have become a really popular option with Icon of the Seas and Star of the Seas, and Royal Caribbean even added it to Utopia of the Seas. So it seemed like the fad was there. It makes sense. It helps reduce wait times for elevators because it uses a smarter logic to them. Instead of hitting the buttons inside the elevator, you hit it outside, and then the algorithm figures out the best arrangement for each elevator to distribute guests. Cool. The other reason why I'm really surprised they didn't add it on Allure of the Seas is they actually tested it out. Last year, they did a test run where the Royal Caribbean's product development team went on board the ship, converted over the elevators into a mock experiment to figure out exactly how to make it work. So it seemed like this is exactly what they were planning on doing. Now, granted, they were probably also like testing it out for Utopia of the Seas because at the time Utopia hadn't launched yet, but it just seemed like if they were going to already do a mock test on that exact ship, wouldn't it make sense to add destination elevators? I mean, obviously there's probably a cost component to it, and this is why they didn't do it, but I was truly surprised this was not there. Another surprise for me was they didn't replace Giovani's. So Royal Caribbean still has 2, really 3 concepts of Giovani's on their ships. Allure of the Seas has Giovani's Italian Table. This is the OG version, the 1.0. And on newer ships, they've rolled out Giovani's Italian Kitchen. We saw this with Freedom of the Seas when she got her amplification. And it's on Utopia of the Seas and the Icon of the Seas and a variety of other ships. So clearly, again, using Freedom as an example here, they came up with this new concept that replaced it. It would seem very apropos to have it replaced on Allure. And they didn't. They kept the old one there. And that's really kind of a head scratcher because of the same reason I mentioned about Samba earlier. Like, Giovani's Italian Kitchen is their baby. This is the new hot fat. Every single new Royal Caribbean ship over the last 5 years at least has gotten Giovani's Italian Kitchen going back to Freedom of the Seas amplification in early 2020. So why did they do this for Allure either? head scratching all around. Something else that was surprising, but like, I don't know what they really would have put in there, is that Boardwalk Donuts still exists. Again, Allure is the only ship that has it. They got rid of this on Oasis of the Seas with her amplification. I mean, it's basically a donut stand you can get donuts from, and then there's an ice cream shop. And the ice cream shop makes sense because every ship needs to have a upcharge ice cream shop area in there, so I'm not so much concerned with that. I'm just surprised they didn't turn the donuts area into an arcade like it is on every other Oasis class ship. Just a strange one. My daughter certainly won't mind it because she likes the donuts on board, but I was really surprised by that. Something else, going back to, again, comparing the Oasis amplification to Allure, is that Spotlight Karaoke doesn't exist on the Allure of the Seas. Instead, the On-Air Club is what you'll find here. Now, to be fair, the difference between the On-Air Club and Spotlight Karaoke is not that different. The On-Air Club tends to be like 75% karaoke and 25% other things, whereas Spotlight Karaoke is, well, all karaoke, really. And I think maybe that's why they kept it here. I mean, I'm going to assume the reason why Spotlight Karaoke isn't here, the reason why Giovani's Italian Kitchen isn't here, and the reason why Samba Grill is still there is for the same reasons. Money. Is that it costs them money to change it, it costs no money to keep it, so they decided to keep it. And that's one of my guesses. I'm just, again, surprised because if you look at the Oasis amplification, which to me was, I won't say the rubric for what to expect with Allure, because there are differences, obviously, but I would have assumed that at the bare minimum, it would have replicated that. Nonetheless, there is no Spotlight Karaoke. Not to say you can't get karaoke in On-Air Club, but just like that's still there kind of situation. Also, something else I fully expected to be gutted was the Comedy Club. Allure still has the original Comedy Club down on Deck 4. And what's really interesting about this is that on other ships like Oasis of the Seas, it was replaced years ago. Now, I'm not complaining about this change. I love a dedicated comedy club, and this is one of the best ones out there, so the fact it still remains is fantastic. But if I'm you guys, I would get in on it while you can, because I think those days are numbered. Royal Caribbean has already announced that on Utopia of the Seas and Wonder of the Seas, the nightclub across the way is actually going to be replaced with a casino, and they're going to move comedy to the main theater, which I really think is a mistake. And quite frankly, not only do I think that's a mistake, I also think they're going to make this retroactive change to other ships, including Allure. But I am surprised that Allure went into dry dock, was there for a number of weeks. The work was being done. Clearly, this work had been, outlined. And right around the same time, parallel to this, they had plans for the changes to Utopia and Wonder. So I just assumed, this would kind of follow with Allure. They'd be on the same page with this, but they're not. So the good news is it has a reprieve. The bad news is I think it's only for a limited time, and I fully suspect the other Oasis class ships will follow based on how Royal Caribbean gutted all the Jazz on 4s and converted those to casinos not too long ago. Now, the one change I'm not surprised Royal Caribbean didn't make, but a lot of people usually pointed out, and rightfully so to some extent, is they did not update the cabins. Royal Caribbean never updates its cabins as part of their amplifications. Right or wrong, they just never do that. Duvets and curtains may get updated, replaced as needed, but they don't go into a cabin and gut it in the same way that a hotel on land may update its rooms every so many years. For whatever reason, I suspect it's money, Royal Caribbean doesn't do this. Maybe I've just grown accustomed to this fact and I don't expect it, thus I'm not disappointed when they don't do it, but it is surprising to some extent, especially considering that in a lot of cases, these rooms certainly feel like the decade they came out on. And compared to the newer Oasis class ships like Harmony and onwards, you can really tell the difference. This is especially true of the wiring in these cabins because, of course, there's a couple of outlets in here, no USB outlets. And in this day and age in which people have far more electronics than they did back in 2009 and 2010 when Oasis and Allure of the Seas first came out, and coupled with the fact that Royal Caribbean is cracking down on the type of electrical outlet extenders you can bring, because, of course, as we all know, you can't bring power extenders anymore, and you can't bring surge protectors, and you can't bring multi-outlet plugs. So you're really limited in that. And at the same time, they're not offering more options for guests on board. It's surprising. I'm not that surprised that it didn't happen, but it is something that makes you scratch your head just a little bit. But I kind of saw the writing on the wall because Royal Caribbean has never done. It's never been their MO. For whether that's good or bad, up to you. So there you have it. A look at some of the things that Royal Caribbean didn't or did change that I was really surprised by. And one, of course, that I wasn't, but it's still wish they had done it anyway. Let me know in the comments below, what are the changes you're most surprised by? Which changes do you love? And when are you sailing on Allure of the Seas? If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.